into alignment with the aspects of you that I like the most. And law of attraction then will only bring the aspects of you to me that I like the most. So we may not be spending as much time together as we have in the past, because law of attraction won't match me up with any ornery moments. Law of attraction is not going to match me up. I'm tuning myself up. How does that feel to you? For many, they say, that doesn't seem fair, that I have to do all the work. I have to do all the tuning, and that person's just out there being bad, not even trying. And we say, but that's how you got to your point of understanding what you want. In other words, nothing else will ever work for any of you, whether it's a government that seems out of control, whether it's terrorists that seem to be on the rise, whether it's an epidemic of something. You cannot go out into the world and train the components of the world to behave in pleasing ways to you. You can't say to the flu virus, don't you dare come near me. You can't say to the gunman, stay out of my part of the city and don't rob me or any of my neighbors. In other words, you can't control the elements of life, but you can control your point of attraction. You can tune yourself to a frequency that will cause law of attraction to only give you from the world at large, from the neighborhood, from the people in traffic to the people that you share your bed with. The universe can only give you what's active in your vibration. So when something happens that's unpleasing and you say, I deserve that, you mean that in a whole new way. You mean, I deserve it because I focused on it, I practiced the vibration of it, I trained myself into a chronic enough vibration of it that now it equals my point of attraction, so it's now manifesting in my experience. I deserve it because I'm the creator of my experience 100% of the time. Don't you feel empowered when you say to anyone, I did that? Esther began that years ago. When something really fun or wonderful would happen, she would say, I did that. I did that. And then when something not so fun would happen, she would say, I did that too. I did that. I did that. Because when you get it, that you are the reason that all things come to you, and you can control the way you feel because you can control what you choose to focus upon. You can choose what you choose to practice the vibration of until it is dominant enough in your experience that it begins to manifest. Isn't that lovely to know? Yes. You see, this conversation, we could be having this conversation with almost about almost anything, and it would be easier than the topic of relationships, because the topic of relationships feels like other people are in there doing stuff too, and they are. But they're in there doing stuff that, in other words, other people are attracting from you. In other words, you know the saying, it takes two to tango, or it takes two to battle, it takes two to have an argument, or it takes two to have a fight, it takes two to have a war. But if you realize that if you're tuning yourself deliberately to the vibration of what you want, then you won't match them vibration for vibration, and then you can't be part of that point of attraction for that unpleasantry. They'll have it with somebody else.
Thank you.
Well, it was all law-based. Now you want to talk about it in more detail, do you? Yes. In other words,
okay.
Well, it's one thing to understand law of attraction, and it's another thing to understand that I create my own reality, and it's another thing to understand that I've put something really wonderful in my vortex, and it's another thing to play the ABC game and get there. But then it feels like an entirely other thing when something unwanted marches right into your face and says something that causes you to feel a way, and it definitely feels like it's someone else's offering that is causing it. And that's what we want to show you is never the case.
I don't know where to start.
Pick something that comes up frequently.
Okay. In my relationship, my significant other is only has female friends, which is fine in theory. It's fine in my mind when I'm in the vortex, and yet him giving a tremendous amount of attention to other women drives me crazy. And it makes me feel inadequate. And
all right, so now let's take a piece of that. So how does that come to you? Are you witnessing it? Are you hearing about it after the fact?
It's mostly text messages.
All right.
Constantly texting other women. Which
All right. So
friends.
So you come across a text that says,
or he's just doing it, and I am not privy to what they even say.
All right. So you are aware that he is having what seems to be a meaningful conversation with someone else about something that you don't really know.
Yes.
And the feeling that comes over you is one of, what was the word that you used? You feel?
I feel inadequate. I feel panic also. Inadequate.
Well,
fear.
let's start with inadequate, and then we'll progress to panic. But
okay.
So you feel?
I want them all at once.
So you feel inadequate.
Yes.
So now, you heard us talking earlier, that feeling of inadequacy, as any emotion, as we discussed with our first friend who sat here, anytime you feel negative emotion, what's it saying to you? It's saying that you have a different point of view than source within you. So you're choosing in this situation to call yourself inadequate or not enough in comparison with something that you are comparing yourself to. And source within you isn't doing that, because source within you, your own inner being, knows how adequate you are. So the emotion that you're having, it's like we said to the woman, and we'll say it to you in the same tenor, you don't feel inadequate because your lover is texting someone else. You feel inadequate because you're focused on yourself in a way differently than source within you focuses. You're letting what you imagine somebody else thinks about you tune how you think about you, and it doesn't measure up to how you think about you. Did you get that? Now, that may have sounded complicated, because it might sound to most of the world that's listening in, oh honey, just go get somebody who won't do that and your life will be better. But we're not ever going to say that to you, because there's always going to be another person that's either deliberately focusing upon you in a negative way, and because they're out of the vortex, or not deliberately focusing on you in a negative way, or that you're going to assume. In other words, as long as you think it is your role that you've got to get them all thinking about you in a way that would make you feel good if you could read their mind and know it, that's way more trouble. There are so many uncontrollable moving parts in that, you'll just make yourself crazy, you see. So if you stop in the middle of this emotion while you're feeling this inadequacy, and then this fury, and then all of this, because you're imagining what could be going on, and you stop and say, wait a minute, I don't know that you're comparing me to someone else, and I don't know that I'm coming up short in the process, and even if I am, that doesn't have anything to do with me, because my life experience is based upon my relationship with who I really am. Now here it comes, hard to hear, but you got to hear it. Not my relationship with you, texting fiend. Now that's hard. That's hard to hear, we know at first, but think about where it will take you. In other words, what we just said to you is the reason you feel bad is because you're choosing to put yourself in a negative point of view with stuff that you're just making up anyway, as you're trying to imagine what somebody else is thinking about you. You've let somebody else train you into a not very good perspective of you, but your inner being won't go there, and that's why you're feeling negative emotion, not because what's going on in that text. So let's say You became sort of whole about that. You practiced it in your mind, and you reminded yourself how adequate you are, and lots of water's gone under the bridge, and you've practiced it for a day and a week and a month, and you're playing the ABC game, and you're tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and you're funnier than you've ever been, and you look better than you've ever looked, and you feel better than you've ever felt, and your relationship is all feeling really good because you're tuned into who you really are, and you're not worried about what other people are thinking. You're even not worried about what your lover is thinking. And as you're standing there, and then you see him texting someone, and you're so tuned in that you don't even feel any negative emotion about it, because your emotion is not dependent upon who he texts or who he doesn't text. And now you're free. Now you're free. Now you're free, and something else amazing happens. Now you're free, he feels freer. In other words, when you're free to love regardless of what somebody else does, they feel less confined. They feel less, and we're not saying that any of that's going on, but usually when you feel that way, somebody else feels that way. In other words, you're sort of matching each other tit for tat on whatever vibrations you've got going on. So when you tune yourself into the vortex so that you're feeling wonderful, now you're extracting the best from him. And if he is texting, you won't be there when he is. And if he is texting, it won't have anything to do with you. And we want to find a way to say to all of you, your relationship with your lover does not have anything to do with his relationship with anyone else. And that's the thing that is so tricky, because you said it, you sort of under your breath, but I want him all for myself. And we say, you can't have anybody all for themselves. They're going to have other thoughts. They've got other things on their mind. They're not going to be a perfect vibrational wavelength with you in every moment, but they are going to reflect largely what you've got on going vibrationally about them. So when you don't make some other fickle person, and we got to tell you, we love you very much, but they're all other fickle persons, because they've all got lots of stuff going on. When you don't make some other person be the center of your world, but you make your own vortex be the center of your world, and you tune yourself into alignment with who you are, so you're radiating this abundant vitality, it is our promise to you that this one who you have picked will pick you back. It just happens that way, you see. It just happens that way. And then later on, you'll say, you know, you used to just drive me crazy with your texting until I quit caring. And what? You don't care who I text? I don't care anything that you do. What? You don't care about what I do? No, what you do is irrelevant. What? What you do is irrelevant. What you do with anyone is irrelevant. The only thing that is relevant is my alignment with the version of you that I've put into my vortex. I put a really good version of you in my vortex. I put a really, really good version of you in my vortex. I put such a beautiful version of you in my vortex. And I align with that version of you until you have become it. And I don't care about those alternate realities that we're off there texting other girls. I tuned to who I want. I tuned to the aspect of you that I want. And then what has to happen is that aspect has to come to you, either through that one or through another one, but that aspect has to come to you. In other words, you can't tune yourself to the best that you've carved out of life without, and make that your point of attraction, without law of attraction giving you that and giving you that and giving you that and giving you that. And every jealousy, every negative emotion, every offness in your emotion, every single time has nothing to do with any of them. It's about the relationship between you and you. Every time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.